Defenses to trespass to land. Introduction. Defenses to trespass to land are legal justifications that allow a defendant to escape liability even when entry or interference with land is proved. These defenses recognize situations where entry is lawful, necessary, or consented to. Courts balance the right to exclusive possession with practical necessities and public interest. Understanding these defenses is essential for problem-based questions in LLB exams. Consent of the plaintiff. If the plaintiff has expressly or impliedly consented to the entry, the act does not amount to trespass. Consent may arise from permission, license, or conduct of the plaintiff. Consent must be free and within its scope. Once consent is withdrawn, continued entry becomes trespass. The defendant must act within the limits of permission granted. Case law, Halliday v. Neville, 1984. Facts: police officers entered a driveway to question a suspect, an area impliedly open to the public. The occupier objected and claimed trespass. The entry was brief and for a lawful purpose. The court held that there was implied consent to enter areas open to the public. The entry did not amount to trespass as it was within the scope of implied permiss. Legal or statutory authority. Entry upon land under authority of law is a valid defense. Police, revenue officers, and public authorities may lawfully enter land while performing statutory duties. The authority must be exercised strictly within legal limits. Any excess or negligence removes the protection. This defense supports effective administration of law. Case law, Intick v. Carrington, 1765. Facts: government officers entered the plaintiff's house to search for papers claiming state authority. No statutory warrant or lawful power was produced. The court held that the entry was unlawful as there was no legal authority. This case establishes that statutory authority is a defense only when clearly proved. Necessity. Necessity justifies entry on land to prevent serious harm or danger. The act must be urgent, reasonable, and done in good faith. It applies in situations like saving life or preventing greater damage. Necessity does not justify entry for convenience. Courts examine proportionality and urgency. Case law, Cope v. Sharp, 1912. Facts: the defendant entered the plaintiff's land and destroyed some property to stop the spread of fire to neighboring land. Immediate action was required to prevent a larger disaster. The court held that the entry was justified by necessity. The defendant was not liable as the act was done to prevent greater harm. Private defense. Private defense allows reasonable entry to protect one's person or property from imminent harm. The force used must be necessary and proportionate. Excessive or retaliatory force is not protected. The defense applies only while danger exists. Once danger ends, the right ceases. Case law, Bird v. Holbrook, 1828. Facts: the defendant set a spring gun without warning to protect his garden from trespassers. The plaintiff was seriously injured. The court held that excessive force without warning was unjustified. Private defense was not available due to disproportionality. Entry to reclaim goods, recaption. A person may enter land peacefully to reclaim his own goods wrongfully taken or retained. The entry must be reasonable and without force. This defense does not permit breaking doors or violence. It must be exercised promptly. The purpose is recovery, not punishment. Case law, Kirk v. Gregory, 1876. Facts: the defendant took possession of jewelry claiming to protect it, without the owner's consent, and later issues arose regarding entry and control. The court emphasized limits on recaption. Entry and interference must be strictly reasonable and justified to avoid trespass. Act of God. Natural forces beyond human control that cause unintended entry or interference may excuse liability. The event must be extraordinary and unavoidable. Human negligence must be absent. Ordinary natural events do not qualify. This defense is narrowly applied. Case law, Nichols v. Marsland, 1876. Facts: extraordinary rainfall caused overflow from artificial lakes, leading to water entering neighboring land. Reasonable precautions had been taken. Held: the court held the defendant not liable as the damage resulted from an act of God. Conclusion. Defenses to trespass to land ensure that liability is imposed only where entry is unjustified. By recognizing consent, statutory authority, necessity, and private defense, the law balances exclusive possession with practical needs and public interest. Courts apply these defenses strictly to prevent abuse. Mastery of these defenses is crucial for LLB examinations.